Hey everybody, this is Erica from the Classy Climb blog. We are in our another Slow and Low series with Eric Hamilton out of New York. He is the creator of TinyStic. You can connect any phone to any TV. You can check out more at tinystick.com. That's without the K. We'll have the links below. How are you doing today, Eric?
I'm doing great.
It's great. So how's New York? You guys aren't in the snow yet, are you?
No, no, it's like 90 degrees today. It's hot. I wish I could bottle some of this heat and like have it in January, but it's nice and warm today.
I know. Every time I talk to someone from New York earlier in the year, they're ready for vacation. So
I know that's right.
So Eric, where are you from, and how did this kind of influence you in your entrepreneur journey?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, and I went to Michigan State. I studied computer science, and I have a computer science degree. And how I actually came up with TinyStick was well, back in the day, I got my first computer when I was like 12 years old, back in
Right.
like 1981, right before most people had computers back then, right? And I just had a love for computers early on, and just had them over the years through high school, through of course studying in college. Had technical jobs. I used to work for Netscape back in the day. I used to work for Yahoo. I also worked for Google as of end of middle of last year. So that kind of brought me to coming up with TinyStick, which was back in 2013. I thought that I wanted a device that allowed me to show my content on my phone to an external display, number one. Number two, I wanted it to be wireless. And three, I'm thinking like, well, maybe it could replace the gaming system that I have, the DVD player that I have, the even the laptop that I have. Why can't I have one device? Why couldn't my phone just be all those things? And I was looking to buy that device 2 years ago and couldn't find it. And a mentor suggested that I go and build it. So that's how TinyStick came about.
That's awesome. I mean, the fact that you have a mentor that actually said go out and create it is great. One,
Yeah.
two,
Yeah.
you had a computer in 1981. What was that? An Apple? What was that?
No, I'm an Apple hater. It was actually a Commodore 64 computer, a Commodore 64. It was, your phone is probably like 100,000 times more powerful. I have to do the math. Probably like 100,000 times more powerful than that computer that I learned how to program on back in 1981. So
Wow.
yeah,
That
yeah.
I was just thinking, 1981. I know everybody's coming over your house. They want to see your computer. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it was a few of us. Yeah, we were using it mostly for games. But yeah, I mean, it was, people weren't into it back then. It was just an expensive toy, and that I enjoyed learning how to program on. So yeah.
I mean, that's great. I love talking to people who are in tech, and especially minorities in tech, because they always make it seem like there's no minorities in tech. But you worked for Netscape, you worked
Yes.
for Google. I mean, those are some big names there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and the numbers are low as far as African Americans in tech. I mean, you generally, I mean, when I was in Netscape, one of only a few African Americans. Google, I mean, shoot. Besides the folks, guarding the doors and cooking the food, I was the only brother up in the mix, for the most part. And even with my computer science degree, most of the my colleagues, other students were white guys. Very few women, very few minorities. It was mainly a white guys club, and that's the way it's been my whole career, starting back my freshman year of college. So yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, because I've noticed now they're doing a lot of programs to reach out to young minorities. They're teaching them how to code in Baltimore. They're teaching them how to code in
Exactly.
Oakland somewhere.
It wasn't nothing reaching out. But back when I started college back in 1987. It wasn't nothing reaching out to me. There was like, no, I was just rolling with my white homies, right? We were just all. I remember back in 1986, my senior year of high school, fall of '86. I was in the programming. It was in the state of Michigan. They had a computer programming competition. This was 1986, '87. So this was almost 30 years ago, and this was really unheard of for this to be. Now you have hackathons all the time. So I was only brother up in that mix. You know what I'm saying? So but it's what it was. It was something I was interested in, and I didn't care there were other people who didn't look like me up in the mix, and I didn't care. I was trying to do what I did and just be a part of it, and it was a lot of fun.
I love that. As long as you go, follow your dream and your passions. That's what's important.
Exactly, exactly. So that's how it goes.
No limits. The limits are only in your mind. That's what I tell people.
Exactly, exactly.
So how did you, to develop a whole, prototype and all that good stuff, how did you finance that?
Well, everything's self-financed. So what I ended up doing was I came up with the idea fall of 2013, and I put it out there on Facebook to say, hey, would you buy a device like this? And I put it out on Facebook, and I got some negative feedback, but mostly positive. So from there, what I decided to do was my mentor, who's actually Asian American, he's actually born in China but raised here, is the one he suggested that I actually try to find a manufacturer in China. So after about 4 or 5 months, I was able to identify one. They were able to meet the specs that I put together for them, but I didn't have enough money for to buy 1,000 units, right? So most people would say, well, just go get angel investors or venture capitalists. So I actually dealt with that in a previous startup, and that's some BS. Dealing with venture capitalists, it's like dealing with some damn pimps that are half pimp and half snake. So I don't roll like that, right? So long short of it is, I ended up starting a crowdfunding campaign summer of 2014, last summer. And really it was just to do advanced orders. So with the goal of just raising $5,000, and we raised with advanced orders close to $19,000. And so from there, I was able to finance the first order, the first run of the TinySticks. And yeah, so that was the first run, and then it showed me that people actually wanted it. It was a great proof of concept.
I love crowdfunding and I love Kickstarter. It shows you if there's an interest in the market. People want to see ideals. And I hate to say it, but I'm glad what you said about venture capitalists, because I've heard some of those stories, but I don't want to discourage people, but I want people to be really, keep their eyes open that there's no one just running around going to give you money out of the kindness of their heart.
Here's another thing. Of course, I know you want to keep it neutral, but I'm gonna take it there, because here's the thing. With any venture capitalist, what they'll do is, you have a great idea, right? You want some seed money. You go to the venture capitalist. A lot of times you may come to them with a non-disclosure agreement. No venture capitalist will ever sign a non-disclosure agreement. But if you want to share your idea with someone else, they'll sign it more than likely. But no venture capitalist anywhere on the planet will ever sign it. So you basically, you show them your idea and everything's supposed to be cool. But so here's my thing is, if indeed they didn't plan on somehow your idea getting out, then why not just sign it, right? Why would you not sign it, right? So they don't. So I remember with my previous startup, just a little side note on my venture capital hate, right? With my previous startup, I actually went and I was pitching to various venture capitalists, and I had some patent pending technology that had to do with video and pre-roll commercials in front of video. And I have a computer science degree, and I was really shocked of how these investors, these analysts, knew a lot. I didn't have to do a lot of explaining. They were well versed, and I'm like, wow, these guys are pretty smart for a guy with an economics degree, right? I mean, I'm talking about algorithms that have to do with user-generated content. They understand what I'm talking about. I'm like, whoa, these dudes is on it, right? So kept on pitching to them. Now they would always accept my meetings, but they would never invest. So I was like, I couldn't figure it out. I was doing this for 2 years, going to venture capitalists, right? After 2 years, another mentor of mine said, we were trying to figure out why I'm not getting investments. So we sat down and we talked, and he looked at everything. He looked at my pitch deck, some of my source code. He looked at everything. We figured out together why I wasn't getting the investment. What he proposed was, he said this to me, Erica. He said, these venture capitalists that you're talking to, what's happening is you are seeding their portfolio companies. I'm like, wait a minute, oh yeah, what the hell that mean? Well, seed, I don't know what that means. When you say I'm seeding your portfolio companies, these portfolio companies. Well, what's happening is I'm giving them ideas to basically seed their other portfolio companies. So what's happening is they're investing in other video technologies, maybe not similar to mine, but in general, right? And so I'm dropping, I'm giving them information. They're always well versed, and they'll sit and listen. But what happens is these analysts sit on boards of other companies, so they won't necessarily steal my idea. But they say, well, they might say, hey, well, have you guys ever thought about using, HTML5 to run pre-roll content in front of user-generated video, which is our basis of our patent? They just pass it along to somebody else. They decide a non-disclosure. They can do whatever the hell they want to do. So after that, I don't mess with these suckers because they half pimp, half snake. And one of the reasons why TinyStic is out there and making money now is I don't mess with these suckers. I spent the last 2 years building my business instead of messing around with these fools. I don't give these fools no time of day. I get hit up every once in a while. I'm like, I ain't got time for you. No. Can I get a pitch deck, Eric? I'm like, you can't get a how about that? Boom. So anyway, that's just my little 2 cents on venture capital.
But it's perfect.
I advise all your viewers to leave them suckers alone because it's a waste of damn time. Lights out for that. I'm about to cuss. For that nonsense. Seriously.
Okay. Hey, I hear you. Listen, I'm all about the pre-sale. If you can pre-sell an ideal and it shows there's a customer base, you got your money.
Exactly.
Pre-sell it, you got your money. You don't have to go around knocking on doors and begging for dollars.
Exactly.
That stifles the creativity process. If you thought of an ideal 2 years ago and you spent 2 years talking to these people, that's 2 years. This model could have already been out. This could have been used.
And what I found was I spent so much time running after these fools, like in New York, like there's my girlfriend that was cheating on me or something. Man, I'm running after them like a insecure boyfriend that I ain't never been with a woman or something. It was crazy. I'm running after them like I ain't got no damn sense. Really, I was for 2 years. Neglecting my customers, neglecting my developers, neglecting the business, right after these fools trying to get money. And here's how they string you along. Early on, when my idea with the video was just an idea, they said, great idea, come up with a cool pitch deck. Okay, I come up with a pitch deck. Cool pitch deck, form a team. Okay, form a team, come up, build a website. Okay, I did that. Built a website, come up with the prototype, build a prototype. Oh, great prototype, come up with a beta. It's one thing after another, and they just leading you along. They just taking your ideas. They ain't serious about you. Ain't gonna happen, never. So any of your listeners out there thinking about starting a business, do not waste your time messing with these venture capitalists. They are not gonna invest in your business, period. They're not gonna do it. Go out there and really vet the opportunity through social media. If it has legs, then go and do a crowdfunding campaign. If that's got legs, now you got something. Then now you can use the proceeds from that to further fund the business. Do not mess around with these sucker investors. That's what they are. Remember back in the days of sucker MCs? Sucker investors. That's what they are to me. Straight up.
I'm glad you're passionate about it because that someone somewhere is sitting in their house going, oh, if I could only get investors, and you're like, stop, just put your ideal in the market, go out there. If it's so amazing and so great, someone will come by.
And you think that with especially with my previous startup, it was in between. I started this business after Yahoo, but before I started working for Google. So I had Yahoo and Netscape on my resume and a computer science degree. And my other co-founders also had Yahoo on their resumes. One had a master's degree from USC, or one of them was Carnegie Mellon, I can't remember, computer science and MBAs. It was some smart folks. They still wasn't messing with us. Straight up. They were just giving us lip service. So I'm telling you, for the listeners out there who think they're going to hit a lick with these fools, just keep walking straight up.
Yeah, and I think that's why you have such robust participation in Kickstarter, because people feel like, man, I can be a part of something that's like before it blows up, because I keep seeing where people used to work for Facebook, or they try to get a job with Facebook, or they try to get a job with some of these Googles and ignored. They create a product. Now Facebook and Google is buying their product. So I'm like, for millions and millions of dollars. So it's like, you can get the last laugh if you go out there and actually take your ideal to market.
Exactly.
So, that's really awesome. So how do you encourage other people to get started in business? Since you have a mentor, do you mentor other people? Do you, go to speeches?
Yeah, so I mentor folks. I mean, pretty much anybody who asks, I will, give them information on how to get their business going. But I give it to them straight with no chaser. Some people don't want to hear what I got to say. I tell some people that I'm mentoring, like, I don't know if you've ever seen the show on CNBC called The Profit. I don't know if you've ever
I
watched
love
it.
it.
Oh, okay, so you already know. So
Love the whole channel.
Marcus Lemonis, man, he the real deal. A guy that I actually mentored actually told me about it. He was a guy that I actually taught some web design to. I used to teach web design for free years ago, and now this gentleman who that's actually a better web developer than me nowadays. Anyway, he's the one. He's a businessman. He's a stockbroker, and he's a web developer. Told me about Marcus Lemonis and CNBC The Profit. For those listeners out there, or your listeners out there who've never seen the show, so basically Marcus Lemonis is a multimillionaire who goes and he fixes broken businesses basically, and he puts up his own money to do it. But he gives it to him straight, no chaser. So I'm kind of like Marcus Lemonis in a certain sense. When I give the advice, I'm just giving it to you real. Like sometimes people come with ideas, they think it's unique. I'm like, have you Googled anything, right? Have you Googled the idea, right? Oh, I thought I was gonna be the first one to come up with, an app that uses GPS. I'm like, no, they got that, right? Whatever the idea may be. And then, secondarily, a lot of people think their ideas are golden, and they'll barely want to tell me. And I'm like, I'm not gonna steal your little funky idea. I'm not. I'm really not. And they want to hold on to the ideas, then they want to tell anybody else. I'm saying, well, the first thing you need to do is get it on social media, see if other people think it's hot. Oh no, I can't do that. I'm like, somebody might steal it. Well, before I even had a prototype, I mean, literally a year and a half before I even launched my product, I was asking people about it. People could have took the idea and ran with it, but guess what? If they can ball like that better than me, more power to them. But the thing is people have to use that social media as a platform, a vetting platform. So when I mentor people and give them advice, first thing I tell them is go out and do that. And if they don't take that advice, I know they're not serious. They just scary style. I don't want to deal with no scary people. Straight up.
Yeah, I've had a brick and mortar business and I have an online business now. And the funny thing is people are so scared people steal their ideals. It's okay. I saw a thing by Gary Vaynerchuk. You may not be the first, but you may be a strong second, a strong third, or a strong fourth.
Sure.
So even if some of those people's ideals weren't the golden ticket or they weren't first, doesn't mean they won't pull up a bunch of market share. That's like telling Lyft, y'all shouldn't come out because Uber's already out, right?
Exactly.
So some of these people who are, one, they should Google and save you some time. Two, the guy that's scared, it's like, if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, nobody knew you had this ideal. Who knew?
And Google wasn't the first. Google was not the first search engine. I mean, you had Yahoo, you had Alta Vista, you had Lycos, you had Excite, you had Web Crawl, and that's 5 that I can think of just by rattling. Probably another 13 or so that I could, if I thought hard enough, probably come up with. They were not the first search engine in the game, but they busting everybody's mouth out now, straight up. They doing it, right? So you don't necessarily have to be the first in the game, but you just got to get off your butt and do it. That's the problem. What most people face is just getting off their little lazy, sorry butt and doing it straight up. And if some of your viewers is like, hey, I'm offended, is he calling me lazy or sorry? Well, if the shoe fits, if you've been sitting on your idea for like a year and you're just too scared to get off and do something, either switch ideas or put it into your mind that you're not the entrepreneur. And hey, it ain't nothing wrong with working at the deli. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing wrong with that. I got my people work at your cousin's dry cleaners. There's nothing wrong with that. But we realize that's your lot in life, and being an entrepreneur is not your thing. But don't be running your mouth saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and it's 5 years later and you ain't did a doggone thing. I'm trying to mess with you. I ain't messing with you. Some of my homies try to do that. Oh, man, I'm like, listen, I spent an hour with you a year ago. You're not going to waste more of my time? No. I got time for that. I'm making money. I got time for you.
Come to Austin and do this speech live. Yeah. You need to come to Austin and do this because Austin's full of entrepreneurs, and then it's full of techie people, and then it's full of people who are entrepreneurs, like they're telling you about an ideal. Right. They've been planning it for 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, 7 years, and you're like, look, you in the middle of a Silicon Valley. Either you're going to do it or you're not. And if
exactly.
it
Like,
fails, okay.
case in point, I'll give you a quick example. I had a guy who was introduced to me by a mutual friend. He had a really, he might be watching this. If he gets offended, you know what? I don't care because I already gave him this advice. So if he gets offended, call me up. If you know who you just call. You got my number, so it's all good. But this gentleman had a really creative, inventive idea that has to do with the plastic bowl industry, with the Tupperware type bowls, and he
Mm-hmm.
has a patent on it. I thought it was a really good idea. Mind you, I'm a tech guy. I'm not into that, Tupperware stuff, but I thought it was a really good idea. I took him to some people who were affiliated with Damon John from Shark Tank, right? And they thought it was a great idea. Even my person connected this person with a licensing person, and what they wanted to do was basically walk this idea with the patent down to Rubbermaid, and basically see if Rubbermaid wanted to do a licensing agreement with them. So where this guy would just not have to worry about anything, he would just get like a dollar off every bowl they sell forever, right? That's the type of deal they were going to try to work out for him. But no, this fool, I should call him a fool. This guy instead wants to, and I'm sorry, brother, you're not a fool, but instead he wants to raise capital to $100,000 in capital so he can manufacture these things and try to push these on Walmart. I mean, the distribution alone is a nightmare, but you already have that in Rubbermaid. So why not sit back and let Rubbermaid run with it and make you a lot of money? In a licensing agreement, he could have set it up where there's certain minimums. So he might say, because the fear might have been like, well, if I license this to Rubbermaid, what if they don't sell any? Well, you write that in the agreement to say you got at least 1 million of these a year, so you guarantee money, right? So, long story short is, you got to be careful. At least I have to be careful of who I take and pass along to my network, because my people who are connected to the Rubbermaid folks were looking at me half sideways, and looking at me like, "What's up?" I mean, we got, he was a good idea, but he wasn't ready. Why are you bringing me this guy and he's not ready to make no money, right? So, it's just a tough game, man. So I guess the moral of the story is, for the inventors out there, if you got a way to go and make some money easily sitting on your butt, don't have a love affair with your invention. If for instance, if I have my device, if, say, I don't know, if Google came to me tomorrow and said, hey, we want to buy your device for X number of millions of dollars, man, you know what? I like my device. I'm not in love with it. It's deuces, yes. It's deuces.
Yes.
Hey, it's about that money. Why are you in the game anyway? Yeah, I'm passionate about doing, but it's bottom line, it's money. So, ain't about no love affair with no hardware device. It's about making that money.
Well, plus, once you get that money, now people will be like, who is this guy Google purchased this invention from for millions of dollars?
Exactly.
You never know if you can get lingering royalties from it, because it may blow up once Google buys it, And so that guy probably wanted to be an S. You ever see the Rich Dad, Poor Dad money quadrant where you got the E, the S, the B? He didn't want to be an investor. He didn't want to be a business owner. He wanted to be an S. He wanted to see the product go out the door at Walmart and do all this other stuff. When rather, I'd be like, listen, Rubbermaid, I just need to make sure we get $2 million worth of these things sold a year. Or, you know what I mean? Like, keep it simple. He could go on and create another ideal.
Exactly. I mean, I agree 100%. Take that money and do something else with it, and keep it moving. Exactly.
I'm pretty sure you have ideal after ideal. After your last thing missed, and then TinyStic came out. I mean, you probably have ideals you don't even realize coming through your head.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. They kind of, I believe it or not, I don't like to have 6 lined up, but generally what happens is once I finish one project, I'm just kind of I'm just doing my thing, and then just something just kind of happens, and so normally just one at a time. Generally, it's just one at a time. But there are products that we'll be coming out with, after TinyStic, because there's natural, types of products that kind of, because everything we do is related to your mobile phone. So there's some other devices that are going to be very mobile phone, I won't say mobile phone friendly, but they're going to go well with your mobile phone, like a TinyStic. So yeah, there's other devices that we're going to be coming out with that are going to help improve your whole phone experience.
That's great stuff. So, I mean, you hit some of my questions about encouraging people to get started in business and get off their butt and stop being lazy. So you took some of my questions, but I do have some other ones. So where do you see yourself in the next like 2 years? Like personally, business wise, where do you like see TinyStic or yourself or just your company, which, you know, is brand new?
So where we're at now, so we had a pretty good year. Last year we did well in our crowdfunding campaign. We've been selling a lot of these online, some offline. I've been spending the majority of this year working on getting a distribution deal. So we've got some things we're in talks with, like folks like Verizon and T-Mobile and Cricket Wireless and one or two other players. And so the key is really, and hopefully we'll have a situation where we're doing a launch event with one of those that I mentioned hopefully soon, and nothing's written in stone. I would love to blow this out and be in thousands of stores for these these mobile stores. So the place where I really want to be is I want to be in a place where our device is in conversation with some of the other players in the mobile space as far as how many, so we're talking about tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of these devices we want to sell. And potentially, I'm open for acquisition. So I would love to do a follow-up in 2 years to say, yeah, Google wants to buy us for 150 million because we rocking a world, right? And they want to incorporate our technology into some of what they do. And yeah, so I'm back working at Google again as a director of quality for this new device that incorporates TinyStic technology, right? And I would love to tell you that, right? I'm back in the working game again. I would love for that to be the story, because here's what I think is important: is we as African Americans, we've got I'm kind of jealous of like my African American friends who are doctors and who are lawyers and who are judges, because they have great mentors. Like I can think of a lot of African American doctors, lawyers, judges. They have great mentors. They have a great networking. And if you wanted to, I remember my buddy who was getting his bar. I mean, it's just tons of networks, and it's because we've been practicing law and medicine, probably for hundreds of years, literally, right, since we got here for the most part. But as far as technology, something that we really, as African Americans, we're really not heavily. It's not, the numbers are extremely low. And with that, when you hear about companies that are bringing bringing consumer electronics to the forefront, there are very few African Americans that are at the table making decisions. One of the companies I think about are Beats by Dre, right? He wasn't the sole owner, but he was, of course, the name of the product, and he was I'm not sure how much he owned. It was a decent amount of the shares.
I think it's maybe 1/4 or 1/5.
Yeah, something like that. It was a decent amount, right?
Yeah.
I'll take 25% of $1 billion. You know what I'm saying? So, but besides Dre with those headphones, there are really no African Americans that are in the conversation as it pertains to consumer electronic products, right? I would love for this to be the next African American success story, so that little kids that are talking about what they want to do when they grow up, everybody talks they want to be like Mike and play basketball and dunk on people, and somebody else wants to be like, whatever, football player. I would love, and somebody else want to be a rapper. I would love for the majority of young African Americans to say, hey, I want to be like that guy Eric Hamilton who made $1 billion off of like doing consumer electronic products. Because here's the thing: if they come up short, if they follow the path to become a computer hardware engineer and they have a great idea and they come up short, well, they're gonna have a pretty decent life, making well over 6 figures as a computer hardware engineer, right? Their life is gonna be pretty decent, as opposed to a rapper who comes up a little bit short of being a successful rapper. You working at Taco Bell. You know what I'm saying? If you not either you Drake, you Kanye, or you working at Taco Bell, right? In my
rapping
field,
at Pick.
Right. You might not be Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or whomever, but you still making your $130,000 a year. It's still a really decent life, right? So I'm hopeful that will be the conversation that a lot of young kids are having in a few years about who they aspire to be like. Because we need more role models in our community, from a technology perspective that look like us. I remember I was on a panel discussion, I think it was given by Black Enterprise a few years ago, I think. And at the time, I didn't agree with my fellow panelists, but over the years, I've come to agree with the statement. And the statement was this. They were saying that technology needs to be more sexy to appeal to young African-American youths. And I'm like, sexy? I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, last time I checked, the CEO of Apple wasn't Brad Pitt, or the CEO of Microsoft wasn't George Clooney. What's sexy got to do with it, right? But I understand, the P. Diddy's of the world and Dre and that kind of sort of thing. I get it, so I do somewhat agree with that stance. But at the same time, I mean, it's just about getting out and doing it, So hopefully, I will hopefully be an inspiration. The company will be an inspiration to a lot of folks who want to do the same thing.
I think you're starting to hit a trend with some Black guys in tech who are kind of making some small waves, and you have some people like Ryan Leslie. I don't know if you ever read anything about Ryan Leslie. Basically, he was a rapper, but he owned all his publishing rights, and he teaches a class on how to start a tour from your cell phone, how to start your own record company, and using technology to do it. And he invests. He's a venture capitalist in a lot of people's tech ideals and app ideals. And I think there's some rappers who are starting to be investors in apps. And so people are like, oh, I don't know if you've ever seen the stats for Twitter and Facebook, but like African Americans and Latino Americans and Asians are heavy users. But when it comes to being on the other side, working behind the scenes in those companies, they're not. So it's that disconnect of like, you guys love using Facebook, you guys love using Twitter. You need to somehow get on the other side of that. Does that make sense?
And you're right. We're the biggest consumers. We tweet like nobody's business, but are we making money off of it? The answer is no, right? But you mentioned, rappers and entertainers who are getting into venture capital. And I'm about to talk about them too, right? Because I ain't got nothing good to say about venture capitalists. So Carmelo Anthony he's a partner in the venture capital firm, and Magic Johnson, who actually, he and I attended the same schools, right? Michigan State University graduates. Magic Johnson is I'm going to talk about Magic too. I mean, I love Magic. I mean, Michigan State all the way. That's my dude. But I'm going to talk about him from this perspective of venture capitalists, because he fits into this category. I don't care who you are. If I think that I'm not feeling what you're doing, what you're part of, I'm going to talk about you too. It could be my mama, straight up. My mama could be down with them. I'm going to love my mama. I'm going to kiss her on her birthday and on Mother's Day. But guess what? I'm going to talk about her if she ain't doing something right. Straight up. That's how I get down. So Magic Johnson, who I love, green and white, baby. I love Magic Johnson. He's a partner in this venture capital firm called Detroit Venture Partners. Detroit Venture Partners is based in Detroit, where I'm from. So when Detroit Venture Partners launched about 2 years ago, they were looking for businesses that, were, oh, and by the way, the partners in Detroit Venture Partners is a gentleman by the name of Dan Gilbert, who also went to Michigan State, and he owns the Cleveland Cavaliers. So you got two Michigan State guys who own this business, and they're looking for businesses of entrepreneurs who are actually from Detroit, who are in tech. I'm like, whoa, that's me. I went to Michigan State. At the time I worked I was an ex-Yahoo guy. I had a startup, and I used to work in Silicon Valley. I didn't live there, but I used to fly up there every weekend from Burbank, California, up to Silicon Valley working for Yahoo, right? So I kind of sort of worked in the valley. So I'm like, I'm that dude, ex-Yahoo, computer science degree from Detroit and Michigan State, and we got some patent pending technology. Oh, it's on. It's on. I'm like, Magic, what's up? I didn't meet with him, but I met with some of his handlers. That, man, they didn't show me no love, none. They were just like the mother of venture capital. You're venture capitalists. They talk a good game, but don't do a damn thing. Straight up. Now they invest in some people, yeah, but they not investing. Here's the thing, they not investing in people who look like us. I mean, you know what? Detroit Venture Partners. Hey, if I'm wrong, please prove me wrong. But for the most part, you are not. Now, here's the thing. I'm not tripping because it's their money. They can take their money with Detroit Venture Partners, Google Ventures, Sequoia, all these venture capital firms. It's their money. They can do whatever they want to do with their money. They can put it in a big pile and light it on fire. It's their money. I can't. Only thing I can do is speak from my perspective, and then do what I do. I'm not gonna be up there in front of Detroit venture partners with a big picket signs and protest and they need to invest in black business. Do what you want. But guess what? I take the stance of a Jackie Robinson or the first black heavyweight champion, Jack Johnson or Joe Louis. They weren't protesting necessarily to get into being able to show themselves in their sports. Guess what they do? They just whoop ass. They did what they did best. Jack Johnson knocking out white guys, and that was unheard of. It's 100 years ago. It's like 1915. Knocking out big white guys, knocking them out. They was like, y'all let this Negro do what? Right? So they couldn't ignore him, right? Joe Louis, the first time in history that white folks were just en masse were cheering for a black man because he defeated Max Schmeling, the Nazi Adolf Hitler's white supremacist champion. He was taking the Nazis down. And, white Americans loved it, black Americans loved it. The first time in history, if I'm not mistaken, that white folks en masse cheered for a black man, right? So he could not be ignored. So I take the stance of those folks, right, who are pioneers in their sports, is you got to knock people on their ass, right? That's where you gonna get their attention. Protesting stuff, who cares? You know what? Bottom line is 5 years from now when we sell this company for $150 million, and they were like, wow, we didn't know about them. I was like, no, Sequoia Venture Partners, or Detroit Venture Partners, Sequoia, and the top 100 venture capital firms, I actually wrote them all letters. I actually sent them a copy of my business plan. Well, actually, after we had several tens of thousands of dollars in sales, we had almost $20,000 in sales after being a month in business. I sent them on my business plan, and cap tables and everything, talking about, hey, we're making money, let's talk. Crickets, silence. Or they came back and said, well, we don't invest in companies like this. You don't invest in companies like that. You don't invest in companies that make money. That don't make no damn sense. So guess what? They're going to look up in 5 years and be like, what happened? How did this one slip through our fingers? I'm like, check your inbox, homie. Check your inbox from August of 2014 when we was wrecking shop and you ignored us. So, I ain't got nothing to say to you. Nothing. Not a damn thing. Straight up. You know what I'm saying? That's how we got to get down, and that's how every company, every black-owned tech company needs to get down. We protesting, go and knock people on their ass, making this money. That's how you get their attention. I'm talking, what I'm saying? Let me calm down.
You got the camera shaking. You got the camera going. I'm like, hold on.
I know, the camera rocking. I'm knocking over stuff. There's water flying everywhere.
Knock a table over. I was like, wait a minute.
Flip my desk over. So let me calm down.
So I was going to say my last two questions were just going to be, one was like, if a kid or tech or a student came to you today and was like, what do I need to do to turn my life around? Like, what would you say to them?
I'll tell you what they need to do, because here's the beautiful thing about being alive in 2015 as opposed to 1815 or 1950 or even 1985. Everything that you ever want, you can go online and Google it. I haven't been to a library in a long time, but I know a lot about a lot of stuff because of Google, right? I would tell that young person, just figure out what you want to do in tech and then go Google it, right? So if you want to be, you hear that Java developers make $130,000 a year. Google how to become a Java developer. You'll find so many videos. Go to YouTube and Google that same thing. Finding free things, these free tutorials. There's something out there called a software development kit, right? So, for instance, let me take a step back. For instance, the iPhone came out, I think, in 2008 maybe. So when the iPhone came out around 2008, there were literally thousands of apps already ready to go in the iTunes store when the product came out. A few thousand apps. So how'd that happen? Well, the people who are in the know were people who Google knew that Apple was coming out with a new product called this iPhone. And what they're going to do is they're opening it up to the world of developers to develop software for it. So then someone may say, well, there's no classes on how to develop for the iPhone in 2008. How do you learn how to do that? Well, it's based on Objective-C, right, which is a language, and that's a language that you can learn that was in existence before. I'm almost certain it was. At least C and C++ was before the iPhone came out. So what they did was you could download this software development kit from Apple. You could use what you knew about C++ and C programming and figure out how to make apps, even though the product wasn't out yet, because they would have a simulator on your computer where you could write the code, you could see how it would function on your computer, and then you can release a product, and you one of the first people in iTunes with, you know. So the thing is to be in the cutting edge and to Google and Google, you know, how to do whatever you want to do. So that example I was just giving is just thinking ahead and Googling and trying to get that information and teaching yourself, because I guarantee all of those first iTunes, iPhone developers, they never took a class for it. Where are they going to take a class at, right? What, at the local library? Ain't nobody know this stuff. They were self-taught. I mean, I've never taken a web development class. I still own a web development company. I've been building websites for about 20 years, and I was self-taught back in 1995. You definitely couldn't take a class back then, and I've never taken a class. I just pick up a book. I like books, but I do Google my butt off on new things that come out. You know what I'm saying? So to answer your question, I would tell that young person to find something that they're interested in tech, whether it's robotics. I'm actually mentoring my little cousin in robotics. He's only 14 years old. I'm teaching him how to use Google, and then just learning about that. Again, finding what you want to learn about, and then Googling it. Going on YouTube, going through tutorials, going on Meetup, finding people who do the same thing as you, trying to figure out how you get a job doing that. You know. Take on a few freelance jobs for free. I said freelance, yeah, freelance jobs for free, where you might want to become, you want to develop, Android apps. Well, do one for your church, for starters. Say, hey, go to your pastor and say, listen, pastor, you know what? I want to help you, spread the word of Jesus through an app. I think we can do it. I think we can put your sermons online through this app. We can have some video and, message of the day, message of the week. I want to do this for the church for free, right? I'm sure the pastor will say yes, right? Build the app, learn some things. You're gonna mess up. The app's gonna crash a lot, but the church is gonna be good with it because it's a free app. I mean, meaning they didn't pay you for it. So you're gonna learn a lot of things. So then when you go into that interview a year later for that software development job on Wall Street or wherever at Sony, they're going to ask you, what do you know about development apps? And you can talk about this, and you talk about that project. You can talk about, well, what are some of the things that you have to consider when you're doing streaming live video? And so when you can break it down about protocols and this and that, and how HTML5s work better than Flash, and all the things that you ran into that year, you boom, boom, boom. And they're like, wow, this guy really knows. Boom, you hire. You make $120,000 a year. People do not want to get off their butt. That's how I get down. You know what I'm saying? There was a point in time where, in a previous career, when I lived in Detroit, I did computer system support, supporting for Chrysler, Windows NT, right? Just that environment. And I ended up starting a web development company. I ended up switching and starting to do what's called web analytics. So then, how do you learn about web analytics? Well, I just Googled it, and I ended up getting a job with Yahoo doing web analytics, right? Based on some of the things that I had learned, had been doing for my clients when I had my own web development company. So when I sold off the web development company interest in LA and took a job with Yahoo, first thing they were asking me, what do you know about web analytics? And I just talked about how I supported web analytics with my clients, these little small clients in Los Angeles, and it was applicable to some of their big baller clients like BlackBerry and Verizon and all these billion-dollar clients that they had. It was very applicable to the things that I had done for these smaller clients. So again, it's about, to answer your question, it's about getting off your butt, getting on Google, figuring out what you want to do, downloading some videos, watching some videos on it, and then trying to learn. Do it. Just do it. Starts today, not tomorrow. It's stuff we're like, well, no, I gotta feed the kids. I gotta go to the grocery store. Well, you know what? Go to the grocery store, but when you get back, make dinner and then get on. Well, I gotta get ready for work tomorrow. No, that's lazy. I gotta, you up watching Love and Hip Hop, Real Housewives of Nonsense. You can watch Real Housewives of Atlanta, but you can't stay up to learn a new craft. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got nothing to say for you. I had somebody tell me that, but then posted about Empire. Oh, I'm like, wait a minute, you the same person who don't got enough time to learn a new craft, but you know what Cookie is doing on Empire. That don't make no damn sense. I ain't got nothing for you. Tweeting about Cookie and can't get online to learn a new craft. Don't make no kind of damn sense. So anyway, that's what we need to do.
It's full of tweetables because you're cracking me up. Because
I'm just trying to do what I do.
But it's so true. If somebody asked me how you know that, Erica, I Googled it. Google University, YouTube University. I Googled it. I took the time. I researched it. I'm writing about it. The way I started one of my companies is I literally saw another guy, copied his style, read about it, learned about it, and boom. And so I think people love excuses. I mean, I love when I give people solutions and the first thing in their mouth is like, well, I can't do it because of A, B, and C, and D, and F, and G. And I'm like, you know what? You're an ask hole. Not the A-hole, but an A-S-K hole. Where people will ask you and ask you and ask you, and then they know they ain't going to do it. They know they're not going to do it. So I love that you go, don't waste my time. You asked me a year ago, don't waste my time, because you have to. But my last question is before I wrap this up, and you've been hilarious, and you've had a very depth of a career in tech there. That's crazy. Is if you knew everything you know now, right? And we could, I don't know if we want to put you back in time. I don't know what we want to do, but you know everything you know now, the success, the venture capital, the everything. And we give you $500 and unleash you. What happens? What do you do?
Wow. So, I mean, if I knew everything that I knew, and it's 2015, okay. Well, wow, that's a loaded question. I tell you what, I think the future, and I was talking to my my little cousin about this. Is nanotechnology, right? So the nano meaning small, right? So that's the future. Nanotechnology and the technology of sensors and Internet of Things, right? So let's say if I was 14 years old, like I snapped my finger, I was 14 years old, I would be just like back when I was 14 in 1983, and I guess to rewind the tape 30 plus years. In 1983, I was 14 years old, and I had I knew what I wanted to do with the rest of my life because I had done a report on I think it was careers leading into the 21st century, so leading into 1999 going into 2000. Things that I read, I did some research. They said two things. They said because the baby boomers are going to be getting old, medicine is going to be big. You know, everything around medical billing, doctors, nurses is going to be big. It's going to be careers, which is true now. And then also technology. And so I love technology, and I decided to do that. So let's say if I'm 14 years old again, Internet of Things, nanocomputers, nanotechnology, right? So Internet of Things is basically, in summary, it's like everything having an IP address and being able to record and I know I'm not doing it justice of what Internet of Things is all about, but it's being imagine your refrigerator being able to collect data, right? About how many times the door opens, how many times the temperature is, and collect data. And imagine you're GE and you could collectively understand what's going on with millions of refrigerators, so you can better design refrigerators. Maybe grocery stores would have a need for this information. Power grids. Internet of Things is sensors on steroids, right? Where everything is being sensed and optimized for the betterment of the system, right? And for people who understand that, a programmer who can write algorithms around that, a business person who could formulate ideas and manage people around the Internet of Things. That's the way to go, right? And then also nanobots, nanocomputers, they're really small. Imagine a robot the size of a grain of sand, right? And imagine this robot going into your body and killing cancer cells, as opposed to us going and giving someone chemotherapy, which kills all of your cells. Imagine thousands of little mighty robots about the size of, or a fraction of the size of a grain of sand, that's going through your body killing cancer without killing anything else. There may be a career in designing these robots and writing algorithms to make the robot smart, to think and go on and be autonomous. That is the future. So if I have $500, I would spend it on educating myself on Internet of Things and nanobots and nanotechnology is what I would do, definitely.
You just scared the crap out of me. So Skynet, you would make Skynet.
I'll make Skynet. So, Terminator, all them, come get us.
Except you're that one human that survives because you made Skynet.
Yeah, I'll be like, yo, Skynet, you can't be good with your boy, but everything else, get everybody else.
I loved it. We're gonna do another one. We're gonna do a follow up. I feel like maybe in 6 months you're probably gonna have a big announcement. I'm
with that. I'm totally with it.
So I'm gonna hit our audience up and close this out. But everybody, if you need to talk to this man, hit him up on Facebook. Give him a deep message. Don't be vague. Don't be lazy. Get out there, hustle for it.
Hustle, go hard.
You know who I love? Arnold Schwarzenegger, because he's like, stop with the impossible. Be different. Don't be lazy. Sleep quicker. He's really funny. He's like, sleep quicker. Stop sleeping on you. So, but everybody, this is Erica Williams from the Classy Climb blog with the Slow and Low series. Today, we've had a great techie on today. I love saying techie. So his name is Eric Hamilton. He is the creator of TinyStic, and that is TinySticWithoutTheK.com. You guys go check it out. Go read more about you. Hopefully we'll get to see you do some more speeches in public somewhere. But Eric, close us out and tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, so definitely you can find me at my website, which is TinySticWithoutTheK.com. So that's TinyStic.com. You can hit me up on Twitter at eham06. That's EHAM06 on Twitter. And then also you can look me up on Facebook. It's Eric Hamilton. And, holler at your boy.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. My pleasure.